Hi, I'm Doug Koenig, professional shooter. What I want to share with you today is some technique that I use to become a top competitive shooter. We're going to start with the stance. Now, through the pistol shooting evolution, two-handed shooting, we've had pretty much three predominant shooting stances. The first one, everybody recognized the old Weaver stance. Left foot forward, bent elbow, the push-pull technique. That's what a lot of guys used to use in the old days. Then through the mid-80s, went to the isosceles stance, which is your feet are parallel to the range, to the targets. Your arms are out straight, pretty much elbows locked, in a straight position like this. Okay, I've kind of adapted it a little bit from that. I call it my modified isosceles stance. And what that is my left foot is going to be 6 to 8 inches in front of my right foot. Slight little bend in the knee. My weight is going to be, I try to be 50-50, maybe 60-40, somewhere in that area, but not a drastic weight change on that front foot. Just a gentle shifting of the weight. Okay, now my arms, instead of being locked, they're locked, and then I come off just slightly. Okay, if this was locked, just slightly off. Okay, I find more control over the pistol, better target to target, and less wear and tear on my elbows than being completely locked. Okay, so this will be the stance. Great target to target. Okay, the bending, any weight forward, you want it to be from the hip up and roll the shoulders just slightly. You don't want to be bent like this, and you don't want to be leaning back like that, or the gun's going to push you around. I like a nice upright with the shoulders slightly forward, and it's a nice balanced, repeatable stance. Now that you know my stance, next time you go to the range, give it a try, and if you're looking for a place to shoot, go to NSSF's website at wheretoshoot.org, and always remember, firearm safety starts with you. Koenig, professional shooter. Today I'm going to share with you some techniques that I use to be a top-level competitive shooter. One of the first things is grip tension, and how to grip the firearm. Okay, on a 1911 style pistol, I like to grip the gun as high as I possibly can to get the beaver tail, part of the grip safety, up into the web of my hand as high as I can get it. Okay, that's step number one. Then I want to get my other remaining fingers and get them underneath the trigger guard and get high and put a little bit of a squeeze as I grab the pistol. My strong hand thumb is going to be on top of the safety. Now, as you can see, I've created a nice pocket. That's where my weak hand, support hand, is going to go. It's going to fit straight in. Okay? Same thing. I want to get my index finger on my weak hand up under the trigger guard. Then I'm going to put my weak hand thumb right on the frame, and I'm maintaining riding the safety. The safety is still on. As I index the target now, I take the safety off, unloaded firearm, safety's off, and I engage the target. And as you can see, my thumbs are lined up right down the side of the gun. So I can point to the target basically with my thumbs, and that's going to point the gun to the target. Help me with my, acquiring target to target acquisition, whether you're shooting paper targets or steel targets. Grip tension. I like to use a 50-50. Equal grip in each hand, and the amount of tension that I like to use is about what you would use swinging a hammer. Not the death grip, okay, to where you're going to be trying to choke that thing out, and if you hold it too loose, it's going to fly out of your hand. So you don't want that. You want a nice firm grip, but not a death grip. The death grip, I have found, gives you inconsistent and erratic muzzle flip and recoil control. So what you're looking for that fast follow-up shot is the front sight tracking straight up and down, and a good neutral firm grip is going to give you that. Now that you know the grip that I use, take it to the range and give it a try. Hi, I'm Doug Koenig, professional shooter. Today I'm going to share with you some techniques that I use to be a top-level competitive shooter. One of the first things is grip tension, and how to grip the firearm. As a new competitive shooter, when I started out, one of the first things that I had to learn how to do was properly pull the trigger. I know that sounds simple, but unless somebody really teaches you how to approach that, the key to properly squeezing the trigger is a straight motion back. It's really critical with handgun shooting. You can get away with it not being correct with a rifle, shooting off of sandbags, but shooting a handgun offhand, it's really critical. First thing I do is basically just manipulate my finger and visualize pulling that finger straight back to the web of my hand. Okay, I want to pull straight back. Okay, the second thing I'm working on is when I prep the trigger, I want to make sure that trigger lands right outside the first joint of my finger, right on that pad. Okay, I don't shoot with a tip, and I don't shoot inside the joint. That's not how I do it. Third thing now is I'm going to place, unloaded gun, place my finger on the trigger. Okay? Now, as I'm working through my dry firing technique, I'm up, I'm aiming, I'm pulling straight back. When I do that, I'm watching my sights to make sure that they're not dipping, they're not moving left, moving to the right. It's very, very important as I'm dry firing to watch that sight until the hammer falls. Concentrating at that moment on a straight pullback of the trigger. For me, that's the most critical thing. I want to know when I am dry firing when the shot's going to break. I don't subscribe to a surprise break when I'm working on my shooting and my dry firing. I want to know exactly at the point in time as I'm working my aim, bang. That's when I want to make it go off. Squeeze the trigger. Repetition is the key. It's the absolute key. And so you're going to dry fire a lot to build that repetition. Okay, take this tip to the range. Now that we've worked on some of the basic fundamentals, grip, stance, we're going to move on to sight alignment and then the sight picture. Hi, I'm Doug Koenig, professional shooter. And to me, the whole shooting process is pretty simple. You align your sights and don't disturb them as you squeeze the trigger. Once the gun goes off, the bullet should impact where your sights have been lined up. So first off, the sighting in your gun, you make sure on open sights, your rear sight and your front post are lined up horizontally correct and you have the right amount of light on each side. And then decide on you're going to use a 6 o'clock hold or is your point of impact going to be at the very top part of the blade. And that's kind of a personal preference. I like to have the top of the blade be where my point. I want the bullet to impact just above the sight. Some people like to use a dot sight or a fiber optic or something of that nature, and they like that to be the spot of impact. And then you have the other shooters who like a 6 o'clock hold, okay, on the bottom of the target. But whatever technique you use, you must make sure it's consistent and the same every time. So it's the sight alignment with iron sights, or if you're using a scope or a red dot, it's putting that reticle on the spot. Don't disturb it until the gun goes off. Now that can happen, it can take you 10 seconds to shoot that shot or 1 second to shoot that shot. The time is irrelevant. The main key is do not disturb the sight picture when the shot goes off. That's a key component. Shooting is very simple. You do that, you line up your sights, you squeeze the trigger, and the bullet's going to hit where your sights are lined up. Try that technique out, work on it in your dry firing, take it to the range, work on your sight picture, your alignment, and the rest of your fundamentals. Okay, is dry firing. I find it very important to work on my fundamentals and skills at home away from the range. One of the most important things I have to stress is make sure you have no live ammunition on your person. Make sure your firearm is unloaded. Check it, double check it, recheck it. It's also a good habit to have a specific area to do your dry firing. That way you make sure you don't have any live ammunition or you don't get anything intermixed, because that's the number one safety tip, is we don't want any accidents while we're dry firing. So be really sure of your safety area and your firearm. You know, when I go to the range, I want to shoot. Okay, and when I go shoot, I may shoot 500, 1,000 rounds. Okay, not everybody can do that. And even myself, when I'm at home is where I'm going to do my holster setup, my positioning, and work on all my fundamentals. I'm going to work on my draw, okay, my stance, my grip. That's the time when you can consciously think about all those things coming into play. You know, if I'm in a surrender start, my hands are up, my stance is correct, I feel balanced, I'm down, I'm addressing the pistol, I'm up with the proper grip, sight alignment, trigger control, bang. Okay, and I do this through the competition season at least once a week. And for someone like myself that also shoots a lot, that's quite a lot. For the person who cannot go to the range and shoot 1,000 rounds a week, I suggest you take 10 minutes every day, every other day, and just work on your gun handling skills and fundamental doing the dry firing. Now you can take this even a step further. If you're a competition shooter, you can actually put up simulated targets. I've done that, put little targets on the wall as I do my sight alignment, trigger control, squeeze. I like to make sure that I know what I'm aiming at. It might be a reduced size target. I may put a reduced Bianchi target up when I'm working on my weekend, okay, because we have one string where we have to transition and shoot weekend. I work on that grip, that stance, and the trigger break while aiming at a target. I like to do all my fundamentals, like I said, while dry firing, setting it up. Do all that stuff at home, your gun handling skills, your reloads, whatever you're going to be doing in competition, and for that matter, for concealed carry. Same thing. You know, your holster's going to be in a different position. Put the coat on that you traditionally wear, or jacket, or wherever you're going to have your firearm. Make sure it's unloaded, no ammunition, but practice drawing from conceal, doing tactical reloads. Whatever it is that you're going to work on, you do that at home, so when you get to the range and that valuable time that you have, you may only have an hour once a week to shoot 200 rounds. Be there and focus on the shooting than worrying about your equipment setup and all the little basic things. You can actually work on all that stuff at home, 10 minutes a day. Everybody has 10 minutes a day at some point in time, and you make better use of your time on the range. So try this out, work on this technique. Hi, I'm Doug Koenig, professional shooter. What I want to show you now is how to do a speed reload. We use this type of technique in Ipsc shooting and hopefully not in steel challenge shooting. Okay, now first off, we have different type of pouches that you'll be loading from. So whether you're doing a competition shot where you have single speed loaders on your belt, or a single pouch, I'll use a pouch like this for Bianchi, so hopefully I'm not doing speed loads there, but I'm going to use this pouch to demonstrate, because this will simulate just something you might carry around the range with extra magazines in it. But the technique of how to do it is still the same. It's just the speed that you do it in helps with the different type of pouches you may use. Okay, first and foremost, my gun's unloaded. Now, I start with a magazine in the gun, because the first thing you need to do is punch the magazine release. Okay, so you're up, and what I do, it's a quick shift of the hand to the magazine release, just like that. See how I'm doing that? And I punch it at the same time. I'm just kind of doing it halfway to show you now. So I'm up, punch, let the magazine will drop, come to your pouch, forefinger on the front of the magazine. I want to be looking into the mag well as I come up with the next magazine and insert it into the pistol. And then you're right back up to either acquire your sights or the target. Now, one thing that I'll do working on this at home while I'm dry firing, unloaded firearm, empty magazines. And you don't even have to do this standing up. Lots of times I'll just be sitting, watching TV, just doing this. Just working on this aspect, making it smooth, hitting the button, inserting the magazine, kind of breaking it into two segments. Then, when I'm doing my regular dry firing, I'll be up, punch, mag, in. Okay, up, punch, magazine, insert. Okay, let's do that with a magazine in it, so you make sure that you're actually hitting the button hard enough. Up, punch, magazine, insert. And you want to do this right in front of your face here. You don't want to leave the gun out and try to do it. You don't have as much coordination on the speed load. Just bring it in, because once you insert the magazine, you have to readdress the target anyway. So it all becomes one move. The mag's in, it's seated, you're up, and right on target. If you're trying to do it out here, you're going to fumble with it, and it ends up being slower than faster. You want to make sure you're looking at the mag well, or the bottom of the gun, especially in the beginning. Especially in the beginning. Teaching yourself, it's that hand-eye and muscle memory that you want to teach yourself going through this fundamental. As you get better at it, you don't have to look at it. But it still helps to look at it. It takes a split second to glance at that gun and back up and in. You see how that works? Bang, and right up. Okay, I'm going to head to the truck and get some ammo and show you a drill that I use when I work on my speed reloading. Okay, now that we've gone over through our dry fire and we've done the speed reload, working on the mag change, I'm now going to show you a drill that you can use on the range with a plate rack, and if you don't have steel, you can use paper. I love to shoot on steel, especially in training, because it gives me instant feedback, recognition of what's going on. So the first drill, what I like to do, draw, fire a shot, do a reload, fire another shot on the plate rack. Okay, and then I'll do that a few times, and then I like to incorporate the multiple shot, multiple target, draw 3 shots, reload 3 shots. It's a simple drill to do on a plate rack with 6 plates. Okay, now the 3 shots. This is all practice. Sometimes you don't grab the mag right. Practice makes perfect. Okay, let's do that again. Try to do it right. So next time you go to the range, try this drill out. I guarantee, with all the little things that you've been working on with this drill, it'll help you become a better shooter with your firearm. We've covered some of the basics. Let's transition over into competition shooting. Hi, I'm Doug Koenig, professional shooter. I want to share an important yet simple technique that I use in competition. One of the most important factors and things for me in competition, besides the basics, is hitting that first target. You've got to make sure you hit the first shot of the stage. Whether you're shooting Ipsc, steel, or Bianchi, or whatever type of shooting you are, take a little extra time to hit that first target. What that does for me is allows my conscious mind and subconscious to kind of sync up. If I'm listening for the buzzer, I hear it, beep, I draw, I'm out, bang. You may only be a hundredth or two to really make sure you hit that first shot. If you miss that first shot, the whole run becomes herky-jerky or choppy, as we say in competition. So no matter whether I'm shooting the 1-in-1 on the practical, the moving target event at Bianchi Cup, a 22 rifle at Sportsman's Team Challenge, or a 12-inch steel plate at the Steel Challenge, it's always the same basic fundamental. I tell myself right before the start signal to hit that first shot. It's very important to me. It's a simple but extremely important tactic that I use in competitive shooting. So take this tip to the range and in competition and give it a try. Hi, I'm Doug Koenig, professional shooter. I want to talk to you today about how to set up your holster for open class competition. The most important thing that I see people do wrong is they put a holster in a spot thinking that they're going to try to set it up for addressing a target at a certain distance or a certain angle. I think that's the wrong approach, because that way you have to condition yourself to move in an unnatural position. The way I set my holster up, if we're going to work from a surrender position, I put my hands up to where they're comfortable. If they're comfortable out here for you, go for it. Some people like to touch their head or hearing protection. I just like to put my hands straight up. They're nice and relaxed. And all I do is drop my hand straight down. Just naturally let them drop down. Okay? And what you see is my hand is dropping straight on top of the gun. I move my holster to where my hand is. Okay, I move the gun to where my hand naturally wants to drop, not the other way around. Because the first thing that happens in competition or under stress is your body's going to get a little tight. So what you need to do is make sure it's going to be in as natural position as possible when you're really going for that speed draw. The gun's going to be right there. And if you have the gun set up over here and you have to unnaturally go across your body or come really far back, you're not going to hit the gun every time. So you're going to miss the gun, grab it low, grab it high. It's going to start all sorts of problems. So I put the gun right where my hands naturally drop. And this varies every day. You know, today I'm dropping it, it's perfect. Tomorrow I may come out and I do the same thing and I might be hitting the butt of the gun. So all I do is just slide it a little bit on the belt to where my hand drops in perfectly. Okay, now once that's set, the way I draw the gun, okay, after I've set up the holster, is it's basically just a snatch technique. I'm grabbing the gun out with these 3 fingers. I'm scooping and pulling it right into the web of my hand. You can almost hear the click of the holster. That's all you should hear when you're drawing the gun. You shouldn't hear a big hard slap like that on the gun. If you are, you're wasting time, because that's extra energy you're smacking down on the gun and then having it to come out. It should be almost silent when you draw that gun. Okay? You can barely hear the gun coming out. That's what you want it to sound like when you're dry firing at home. Okay? Nice and sharp. That's how I watch myself and listen to hear how clean my draw is. And then you can work on that faster and faster. Okay, that was about a 1-second draw, maybe a little under. I hope this helps you get faster with your draw and your holster setup. I'm Doug Koenig, professional shooter, and I use goal setting to prep myself for shooting tournaments, championships, and in my practice. You know, in the big picture, I use my goal setting as an example. There's a certain score that I'm trying to achieve because it's a set course of fire. For Steel Challenge, there might be a target time that I'm trying to achieve. So I set that in place. I try to stay away from, hey, I want to win, hey, I want to finish top 5, because all that to me is kind of irrelevant. It all comes down to my preparation. Then I translate that into my practice sessions. I have goals for every single practice session. You know, if I'm getting ready for the Bianchi Cup, my goal that day might be to get real familiar with the 10-yard line and the transfer to the weekend for the practice on the barricade where we're changing hands. And that's my goal of the day, is when I get out of there that I'm good on the 10-yard line. And the next day it might be shooting 25 yards on the mover. But I go to every practice session with a goal, and my goal is high. I set the bar real high, because what I tell my football players is, if the bar's here and you finish here, that's pretty darn good. If you set the bar here and you finish here, it's not quite so good. So set your goals high, keep them realistic, okay, and don't always attach a finish, because the way I look at shooting is I can't control the guy next to me. I can only control myself and what I'm doing in the match, and that all translates to how I practice and prepare for the tournament at home, dry firing, and at the range. If you're Hi, I'm Doug Koenig, professional shooter, and I want to go over the do's and don'ts for your practice sessions once you get to the range. Okay, you've already incorporated all your dry firing, your grip stance, all the things we've already touched base on at home. You come to the range, now it's time to practice. I love shooting on steel. Steel plate racks are a great practice tool. You can see your hits, you can acknowledge what's going on without having to guess. Okay, that's the practice do's. Practice on steel, excellent. Paper targets, if you're using paper targets only, make sure you tape up the holes. I see too many shooters at the ranges at the end of a half-hour session. They've got bullet hits all over, and they're not really sure or keeping track of what they're doing as they're doing it. there's really doesn't give you the right feedback to know if you're doing the things right when you're working on double tapped or even multiple targets if you have them up. If you're not taping them, you're kind of allowing yourself a disservice not keeping track of what you're doing. You know, perfect practice makes you perfect. You got to work hard, work on the right things. That's going to keep you moving in the right direction. It doesn't matter if you want to be a competition shooter, top level, medium level, or you're just practicing with your concealed carry rig, or you're out practicing just to be a better handgun hunter or shooter. You have to always work on the basics and do the right thing. The don'ts. Don't just stay close. If you want to be a good handgun shooter, that doesn't mean just at 10 yards. That means to keep working your way back every day, every session. You might just start out one session and be at 25 yards or 50 yards, whatever it may be, wherever your limit is. Test yourself to where you're a little uncomfortable. You know, the big thing I see a lot of shooters do, they're always practice the things that are easy to them, and they never get any better because they're always doing the easy stuff. The hard stuff is what makes you good. Getting good at the hard stuff. Finding your weaknesses and practicing them and making them better. Okay, staying at 10 yards as a handgun shooter, you know, you're only ever going to be good at 10 yards. And that's great if it's a concealed carry situation, but if you want to compete, you really need to stretch yourself out. I'll go out some days, strictly work at 50 yards. And that's really mentally tough. And yeah, I may not shoot 500 rounds that day. I may only shoot 100 rounds that day because it's really, really difficult to focus and do the right thing there. And other days I may just spend at 10 yards working on different techniques and maybe be able to shoot a little more ammo. I might be working more on speed than accuracy. A lot of different things, but have a game plan when you go to the range. Have a little breakdown of what you want to work on, what you need work on, and how to attack that. These are the things that I like to do. Every time I go to the practice range, I have an agenda. I'm not just going there just to blast rounds downrange. If you're looking for a place to shoot, go to NSSF's website at wheretoshoot.org. Hi, I'm Doug Koenig, professional shooter, and I want to go over the do's and don'ts for your practice sessions once you get to the range. Okay, you've already incorporated all your dry firing, your grip stance, all the things we've already touched base on at home. You come to the range, now it's time to practice. I love shooting on steel. Steel plate racks are a great practice tool. You can see your hits, you can acknowledge what's going on without having to guess. Okay, that's the practice do's. Practice on steel, excellent. Paper targets, if you're using paper targets only, make sure you tape up the holes. I see too many shooters at the ranges at the end of a half-hour session, they've got bullet hits all over, and they're not really sure or keeping track of what they're doing as they're doing it. There's really doesn't give you the right feedback to know if you're doing the things right when you're working on double tapped or even multiple targets if you have them up. If you're not taping them, you're kind of allowing yourself a disservice not keeping track of what you're doing. You know, perfect practice makes you perfect. You got to work hard, work on the right things. That's going to keep you moving in the right direction. It doesn't matter if you want to be a competition shooter, top level, medium level, or you're just practicing with your concealed carry rig, or you're out practicing just to be a better handgun hunter or shooter. You have to always work on the basics and do the right thing. The don'ts. Don't just stay close. If you want to be a good handgun shooter, that doesn't mean just at 10 yards. That means to keep working your way back every day, every session. You might just start out one session and be at 25 yards or 50 yards, whatever it may be, wherever your limit is. Test yourself to where you're a little uncomfortable. You know, the big thing I see a lot of shooters do, they're always practice the things that are easy to them, and they never get any better because they're always doing the easy stuff. The hard stuff is what makes you good. Getting good at the hard stuff. Finding your weaknesses and practicing them and making them better. Okay, staying at 10 yards as a handgun shooter, you know, you're only ever going to be good at 10 yards. And that's great if it's a concealed carry situation, but if you want to compete, you really need to stretch yourself out. I'll go out some days, strictly work at 50 yards. And that's really mentally tough. And yeah, I may not shoot 500 rounds that day. I may only shoot 100 rounds that day because it's really, really difficult to focus and do the right thing there. And other days I may just spend at 10 yards working on different techniques and maybe be able to shoot a little more ammo. I might be working more on speed than accuracy. a lot of different things, but have a game plan when you go to the range. Have a little breakdown of what you want to work on, what you need work on, and how to attack that. These are the things that I like to do. Every time I go to the practice range, I have an agenda. I'm not just going there just to blast rounds down range. If you're looking for a place to shoot, go to NSSF's website. Hi, I'm Doug Koenig, professional shooter. One of the things that I learned early on in my shooting career is trying to find out what worked for me. I got lots of advice, especially as a new shooter. You're seeking advice from all the top shooters and everybody that's been doing it a long time. And the advice that they give you lots of times is very, very good, but it may not be correct for you. And that starts with grip, stance, the same stuff I've gone over, which works great for me. I recommend you try all the stuff. When you're dry firing, when you get to the range, try different techniques. That's how you're really going to get to the highest level at what you're trying to do, whether you're going to compete or just become a better pistol shot. I learned a long time ago, one of my early Bianchi Cups, the guys told me constantly, hey, you got to shoot a revolver. This match is set up for a revolver. And that's great if you're a revolver shooter. I wasn't. So it took me 3 to 4 weeks just to get the rhythm of rolling through the cylinder, working the shots. I was an auto shooter. I shot an automatic everywhere else I was. And it actually took me about 3 years before the light bulb went on, and I thought, I'm gonna go against what all these guys tell me, and I'm gonna start shooting an auto and see how that works out. And it took me about 1 week to realize I made the right decision. And it wasn't that their information was bad, it's just that it's something that you've got to do for yourself and really test it to see what's going to work for you. Everybody's a little different. Your physicality, your strength, your balance, your vision, all these things come into play. Certain stance might work better for you, a certain firearm. I tell the people, go to the gun shop, handle all the different pistols you can. If you're fortunate to be at an indoor range and they let you test fire them ahead of time, that's great, because what I like and what shoots great for me may not fit your hand perfect. You may have a different job or task that you're trying to do with it. It's all variable. There's no one size fits all when it comes to firearms, training, or any of those techniques involved. Hi, I'm Doug Koenig, professional shooter. Now, if you've worked on all the basic stuff we've gone over, things should be going well in your practice sessions and in your competitions if you're doing that. But sometimes everybody runs into a little bit of a slump or a snag, and you need to learn how to analyze your shooting. One of the best tools I've found is video. Everybody nowadays has a video camera on their phone, a little handheld recorder. Get your buddy to videotape a practice session, video each other, you have something to go back and watch. It's impossible to watch yourself while you're shooting. So the video, I've used that in the past for myself to check out my stance and balance and some different things that I've been working on to really reinforce what I'm doing well and what I'm not doing well. So that's the tip. Video yourself, analyze what you're doing, critique yourself, set the bar high, and really work hard.